بنتس أنس. واو.
नहीं
वाह 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 वाह
Hare Krishna, everybody. Subhadra Mataji,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Madhuri Manasi Ganga Mataji, welcome. Madhuri Manasi Ganga Mataji, welcome.
Hare Krishna,
Shailesh,
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, nice to see you. Shailesh and Prabhu and Kirti Mataji, welcome. Somehow, I apologize that we are starting late today. I just came back 10 minutes ago from another class. It looks like others are also late, not only me. Anyway, we'll start and let them join whenever they want and whoever joins. Yeah, in that Bhagavad Dharma group I posted, I'll be late. So Madhuri Manasi Ganga Mataji, if you wish, I left the link, Telegram link for that other group where we post more than in Bhagavad Vichar group for those who are regular attendants. The link is there in the chat I left. If you wish, you can join also that group. This is for regular attendees group. So yeah, let me just quickly summarize what we did last time. We finished the chapter 6, in which Lord Maharaj was teaching his classmates. And if you remember, at the end of the chapter, they asked him, how did you learn all these things? How did you learn about Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness and everything that you taught us? And then he said, this is all I learned from my teacher, Narada Muni. And then they were surprised because they knew only Chandana Markas, the teachers. And Prahlad Maharaj was always in the school with them, so he didn't really have any opportunity to sneak out of the school and go for classes with Narada Muni. And then we enter the seventh chapter, where he actually explains how he got the opportunity to hear and learn all these things from Narada Muni. That's why the seventh chapter is entitled What Prahlad Learned in the Womb. And the 70 shlokas that we read in this chapter, he basically describes how it happened, that he was that actually Hiranyakashipu was doing austerities, and during that time the demigods, they invaded his city and arrested his mother Kayadu, and they wanted to keep her imprisoned until Vlad is born, and then to kill him because they thought the son of the demon must be a demon. But then Narada Muni appeared there and forbade them to do this. And the demigods, they obeyed very respectfully Narada Muni, who took the mother to his ashram until the child was born. And there he taught both the mother and the baby in the womb the transcendental knowledge. And then Prahlad explains that the mother, she forgot, but he didn't forget. And this is how he became a pure devotee, just by listening Narada Muni, transcendental instructions that were very potent, and also applying them in practice while not yet born even. All right, so we stop here, and now we'll continue. I'll share the screen, and then
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just before you start, can I just ask you a couple of questions? Firstly,
please.
are you intending to do the full 2 hours, or will you stop half an hour earlier today?
Well, I was thinking generally we stop at 8, so
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I have some commitments then as well, so I just wanted to know whether to.
yeah, 1.5 hours, I think, is more than enough to stop at the regular time. We are just a little shorter today.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. And I might struggle reading today, Prabhu. You might forgive me because I'm walking about, so not in front of the screen.
Oh, all right.
I'm
Okay.
listening, but we may
Okay.
not be able to read. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Then the others can read.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll share screen and invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Namo Vishnudev Krishna Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Prachani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastadeshatharine. So who would like, maybe Subhadra Mataji would like to start reading?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Janmadya sat ime bhava drishta dehasya na mana phalanam eva vikshasya kalineshvara murtina. Translation. Just as the fruits and flowers of a tree in due course of time undergo 6 changes: birth, existence, growth, transformation, dwindling, and then death. The material body, which is obtained by the spirit soul under different circumstances, undergoes similar changes. However, there are no such changes for the spirit soul. Purport. This is very important first in understanding the difference between the spiritual soul and the material body. The soul is eternal, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 20. Najayate mrijayate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya ajo nityam sashvato ayam purano na hanyate hanyamana sharira. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been thus he ever ceased to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying and primeful. He is not slain when the body is slain. The spirit soul is eternal, being freed from waste and change, which takes place because of the material body. The example of a tree and its fruit and flowers is very simple and clear. A tree stands for many, many years, but with the seasonal changes, its fruits and flowers undergo 6 transformations. The foolish theory of modern chemists that life can be produced by chemical interactions can't be accepted as truth. The birth of a human being's material body takes place due to a mixture of the ovum and semen. But the history of there is not always pregnancy, unless the soul enters the mixture.
Mataji, you skipped one sentence, but the history of birth is.
But the history of birth is that although the ovum and semen mix together after sex, there is not always pregnancy. Unless the soul enters the mixture, there is no possibility of pregnancy. But when the soul takes shelter of the mixture, the body takes birth, exists, grows, transforms, and dwindles, and ultimately it is vanquished. The fruits and flowers of a tree seasonally come and go, but the tree continues to stand, undergoes 6 transformations, but the soul remains permanently the same. Ajo nitya sasvato ayam purano na hanyata hanyamane sharira. Bhagavad Gita 220. The soul is eternal and ever existing, but the bodies accepting by the soul are changing. There are 2 kinds of soul: the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, and the individual soul, the living entity. As various bodily changes take place in the individual soul, different millenniums of creations take place in the supreme soul. In this regard, Madhvacharya said, Sat vikaraha sarirasya na vishnustadgatasya tat adhinam shariram cha gyatva tan mamatam tyajet. Since the body is the external feature of the soul is not dependent on the body. Rather, the body is dependent on the soul. One who understands the truth should not be very much anxious about the maintenance of his body. There is no possibility of maintaining the body permanently or eternally. Antavanta ime deha nityas yoktaha sharirina. This is the statement of Bhagavad Gita 2:18. The material body is antavat, perishable, but the soul within the body is eternal. Nityas yuktaha, shariri naha. Lord Vishnu and the individual souls who are part and parcels of him are both eternal. Nitya nityanam cheta nas cheta Nanam, Katha Upanishad 2:13. Lord Vishnu is the chief living being, whereas the individual living entities are part of Lord Vishnu. All the various grades of bodies, from the gigantic universal body to the small body of an ant, are perishable, but the super soul and the soul, being equal in quality, both exist eternally. This is further explained in the next verses. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Some devotees desiring liberation require some knowledge. That is given now in 10 verses. The six changed are birth, maintenance, growth, transformation, decline, and death. Every year the fruits change on the tree, but the tree remains. Similarly, one sees six states of the body, but not of the soul, which remains at all times. From time arise the universal form and the individual bodies, thus it is called a form of the Lord.
So here, since we already on Krishna Chakra Thakur's commentary, it's interesting. He mentioned some devotees desire liberation require some knowledge. So there are devotees who desire liberation. Well, of course, devotees do not desire impersonal liberation or Sayuji Mukti, but they may desire one of the four Vaishnava types of liberation, like Sarsti, having the same opulence as the Lord, living the same planet as the Lord, having same bodily features as the Lord. This is sort of bona fide liberations, but still, this is self-motivated desire for liberation, and those who are pure devotees, Shuddha Bhaktas, they don't have such desires. But still, there is a space in Vaikuntha for devotees who yeah, who wish that, who wish liberation and whatever opulence is present there. But just it is to be understood that their love, their Vaikuntha Prema is not on a par uh, as Prema in Goloka, Prema of Rajavasis, who do not wish anything for themselves, so to speak, liberation. They don't wish anything, absolutely nothing for themselves. Their love is completely unalloyed and pure. So here this shloka in purport was about the basic difference between the soul and the body. As we learn in Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada, I don't know how many times in his books he mentions that we are not the material body, but just having theoretical knowledge is something that is good, but it's not enough. And we can test how much we realize we are not the body when we're in some painful bodily condition or in some difficult situation. Generally, I remember whenever I have to go to the dentist, at least I didn't like it very much. And then we can test our detachment when we have to perform some dental procedure. And Prabhupada here in one place, he says that one who understands this truth should not be very much anxious about the maintenance of his body. So we all can also understand how much we understand that we're not this body, how much anxious we are, how much hard I work to preserve this body, to secure this body, to build a safe place in this material world, in order when I retire to have a comfortable life. Everybody thinks like this. And then, people do all sort of, health maintenance procedures. They jog early in the morning. Just here in Mayapur, this morning I was going for the upper walk, and there are 4 or 5 devotees jogging very seriously in a full sports gear, jogging at 5:30 or 6 in the morning. So they take it very seriously. Anyway, the maintenance of the health is also required. Just we have to have a proper perspective and proper goal. Is there anybody who has anything on these points here, on this sloka and these purports? If not, we can continue reading. Maybe Madhura Manasi, Ganga Mataji, would you like to read the next
Sure,
sloka? Thank you.
sure, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 7.7.19 to 20. Atma nityo vyavaha suddha eka kshetragna ashraya avikriyaya swadurghetur vyapako sangi anabrata एतैर्द्वादशभिर्विद्वान् आत्मनो लक्षणै परहि अहं ममते असद्भावं देहादौ मोहजं त्यजेत्. Translation. Atma refers to the Supreme Lord or the living entities. Both of them are spiritual, free from birth and death, free from deterioration and free from material contamination. They are individual. They are the knowers of the external body, and they are the foundation or shelter of everything. They are free from material change. They are self illuminated. They are the cause of all causes, and they are all pervading. They have nothing to do with the material body, and therefore they are always uncovered. With these transcendental qualities, one who is actually learned must give up the illusory conception of life, in which one thinks, I am this material body, and everything in relationship with this body is mine. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Lord Krishna clearly says, Mama so jiva loke jiva bhutaha. All the living entities are part of me. Therefore, the living entities are qualitatively the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the leader, the Supreme among all the living entities. In the Vedas, it is said, Nityo Nityanam, Chetanas Chetanam. Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. The Lord is the chief individual living entity, the leader of all subordinate living entities. Thus, the living entities are part or sample of God. Their qualities are not different from those of the Supreme Lord. The living entities have the same qualities as the Lord, as just as a drop of seawater is composed of the same chemicals as of the great sea itself. Thus, there is one quality but difference in quantity. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by understanding the sample, the living entity, because of all the qualities of God exist in a minute quantity in the living entities. There is oneness, but God is great, whereas the living entities are extremely small. Anor Anyan Mahato Mahiyan Katha Upanishad 1.2.20. The living entities are smaller than the atom, but God is greater than the greatest. One conception of greatness may be represented by the sky because we think of the sky as being unlimitedly big, but God is bigger than the sky. Similarly, we have knowledge that the living entities are smaller than the atom, being 1/10,000th of 1/10,000 the size of the tip of the head. Yet the quality of being the supreme cause of all causes exists in the living entity as well as in the supreme personality of Godhead. Indeed, it is due to the presence of all living entities that the body exists and bodily changes takes place. Similarly, it is because the supreme lord is within the universe that the changes dictated by the material laws occur. The word eka, meaning individual, is significant as explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.4. Matasthani sarvabhutani nacham tvish avastita, everything material and spiritual, including earth, water, air, fire, sky, and the living entities, exist on the platform of spirit soul. Although everything is an emanation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not think that the Supreme Lord is dependent upon anything else. Both God and the living entity are fully conscious. As living entities, we are conscious of our bodily existence. Similarly, the Lord is conscious of the gigantic cosmic manifestation. This is confirmed in the Vedas. Yasmin Dua Prithivi Kanta Riksham Vijnataram Adhikena Vijaniyat Ekam Evadityam Atma Jyoti Shamrat Ivokcha Sa Imam Lokam Asraj Asrijata Satyam Jnanam Antaram Asangohi Ayam Purusha Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashyate. ESO invocation. All these Vedic injunctions prove that both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the minute soul are individual. One is great and the other is small, but both of them are the cause of all causes, the corporally limited and universally unlimited. We should always remember that although we are equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality, we are never equal to Him in quantity. Person with a small fund of intelligence, finding themselves equal in quality with God, foolishly think that they are equal in quantity also. Their intelligence is called avishuddha, buddhaya, unpolished or contaminated intelligence. When such person, after endeavoring hard for many lives to understand the supreme cause, are finally in actual knowledge of Krishna, Vasudeva, they surrender unto him. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlava. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Thus, they become great Mahatmas, perfect souls. If one is fortunate enough to understand his relationship with God, knowing that God is great, Vibhu, whereas the living entity is small, Anu. He is perfect in knowledge. The individual exists in darkness when he thinks that he is the material body and that everything in relationship with the material body belongs to him. This is called aham mana. Janasya mohoyam aham mamiti. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.8. This is illusion. One must give up his illusory conception and thus become fully aware of everything. Shall I read the next also, Prabhu?
Yes, please, the Vishnu Thakur's commentary.
Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura 7.7.19 to 20. Thinking of the absence of six changes in the jiva brings purification of one's concept of Twam, the jiva. Purification of the concept of Tat, the Lord, will take place by meditation of the Paramatma with devotion. Thus, the Swarupa of Paramatma is now discussed in two verses. The Paramatma, Atma, is without destruction, Nitya. Shruti says, are Yam Atma. This is the Atma, without inside or outside. Brihadaranyakya Upanishad 4.5.13. He is without decay. Ava- Avyaya. Shruti says, "Ri- rich akshare parame vyoman yasmin deva adi vishve nishedu. He is the supreme, immutable. Vedas in which the Devatas take refuge. Svetaswara Upanishad 4.8. Paramatma is pure, Shuddha. Shruti is Vignataram. arcana vijaniyat. How should one know the knower? Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 2.4.14. Paramatma is the shelter. Shruti says Yashman Dhyayu Prithvi Chantariksham. In him resides the heaven, earth, and the middle region. Mundaka Upanishad 2.2.5. He is without change. Avikriya. Shruti says Nishkalam, Nishkriyam, Santam. He is without parts, without material, action, and peaceful. Svetaswara Upanishad 6.19. He is self revealing, Swadrik. Shruti says Atma Jyoti, Shamrat, Ihovacha. The self revealing independent Lord spoke. Brihad Aranakya Upanishad 4.3.8. He is the cause, Hetu. Shruti says Sa Imam Lokam Ashrijata. He created the world. Aita Reya Upanishad. He is all pervading. Shruti says Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The Lord is unlimited knowledge and existence. He is without material association. Taittiriya Upanishad 12.2. Shruti says Asangahi Ayam Purusha. The Lord has no association with matter. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.3.15. He is not covered by anything. Shruti says Purnasya Puram Adya Purnam Eva Vashishthyate. When the manifested form merged with the unmanifested Brahman, the unmanifest Brahman remains. Isho Upanishad invocation. By these 12 characteristics which distinguish him, Parai, from the jiva, which one should constantly meditate upon, one will give up the false state, asadbhavam, concerning the body, arising from the illusion. This means that without contemplation of Paramatma, the illusion, similar to losing one's sense of direction, will not be destroyed, even if one has discrimination.
Okay, so here we had more of Atma Tattva, which also includes the Paramatma Tattva. So the knowledge of the Atma and the Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. So the both types of transcendentalists or impersonalists and the devotees, they both have knowledge of the Atma. But there is a difference in their knowledge. Brahma Bhuta is the state where one realizes that he's the soul, he's not the body. And it's basically Brahman realization. And comparing to material state of consciousness, it's very blissful. You can say blissful state. It's a very peaceful state. It's a shanta state. You are not disturbed anymore by anything, and you feel great relief in comparison to one who is in the bodily consciousness. But still, that happiness, that spiritual happiness, that comes from realization of your position as a soul, and that realization of Brahman is compared to very small, insignificant water in the cow's hoofprint, comparing to the ocean of happiness of one who engages in the service of the Lord, one who is serving the Lord directly. So that's why it's inferior sort of happiness, but still it's much higher than material happiness. So devotees, they don't want to stay just on this level of Atma Tattva knowledge of Atma. They want to engage in direct service of the Lord, and in this way make the Lord happy and themselves. Then devotees themselves will feel happiness. Yogis, of course, they have a goal as Paramatma, and it's again some sort of shantarasa. They're satisfied to, meditate and remember the Lord without actively engaging the service. But in true sense, bhakti or devotional service starts from dasya rasa. So the rasa above the shanta. From dasya and goes to sakya, vatsalya, and the highest is madhurya. All right, is there anybody else who has anything on this Atma Tattva shlokas? Otherwise, we can continue reading. Chatura Mataji, are you there? Will you be able to read, please? Chatura Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, 7:21.
Yes, please.
Swamanyata gravashu hema karaha cheshu yugista abhina abnuyat cheshu deheshu tata Mayoge Dhyama Brahma Katina Heta. Translation. An expert geologist can understand when there is gold and by various process can exchange from the gold ore. Similarly, a spiritually advanced person cannot understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus, by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. However, as one who is not expert cannot understand where there is gold, a foolish person who has not cultivated spiritual knowledge cannot understand how the spirit exists within the body. Purport. Here is a very good example concerning spiritual understanding. Foolish rascals, including so-called jnanis, philosophers, and scientists, cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body because they are lacking it spiritual knowledge. The Vedas enjoin Tavina Nantam Sa Gurum Evapigachet NU 1.212. To understand spiritual knowledge, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Unless one has been trained in geology, one cannot detect good gold in stone. Similarly, unless one has been trained by a spiritual master, he cannot understand what is spirit and what is matter. Here it is said, Yogestata Jina. This indicates that one who has connected himself with spiritual knowledge can understand that there is spiritual soul within the body. However, one who is in an animalistic conception of life and has no spiritual culture cannot understand. As an expert mineralogist or geologist can understand where there is gold and can then invest his money to dig there and chemically separate the gold from the ore. An expert spiritualist can understand where the soul is within matter. One who has not been trained cannot distinguish between gold and stone. Similarly, fools and rascals who have not learned from an expert spiritual master what is soul and what is matter cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. To understand such knowledge, one must be trained in the mystic yoga system or finally in the bhakti yoga system. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktiyaman Abhijanati. Next, one takes shelter of the Bhakti Yoga process. One cannot understand the existence of the soul within the body. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita begins by teaching Dehi no Sminyata Dehe Kaumaran Yovananjara Tata Dehantara Prati Tirastarana Muyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.13. Thus, the first instruction is that one should understand that the soul is within the body and is chance migrating from one body to another. This is the beginning of spiritual knowledge. Any person who is not expert in understanding this science or is unwilling to understand it remains in the bodily conception of life or the animalistic conception of life as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam Yashama Puti Kun Napechi Taku Tatutike Sa eva go kara. Srimad Bhagavatam 10.84, 13. Every member of human society should clearly understand the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, for only in this way can one be spiritually elevated and automatically give up the false illusory knowledge by which one thinks I'm this body and everything belonging to this body is mine. Aham mamete. Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.8. This doggish conception should be rejected immediately. One should be prepared to understand the spiritual soul and the supreme spirit, God, who are eternally related. Thus one may return home back to Godhead, having solved all the problems of life. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur, where does this Paramatma exist? He exists in the body. The method of attaining him is explained through an example, just as the miner who knows the body attains gold by methods such as hitting taught by his teacher from rocks in a gold mine. So the knower of Atma attains Paramatma by methods for realizing Atma, such as contemplation in the field of the body.
So we know that the body is undergoing 6 different types of changes from, from birth, then growth, then is giving some fruits, then declining, and eventually death disappears. So these are the changes that every material body, whether it's animal, plant, or human, it goes through from beginning till the end. And it's a normal, it's something very natural. If you look at your photo when you were a baby or small child, and then you look at that photo and look yourself now in the mirror, can you see the difference? It's quite a huge difference. It's completely different body practically. So just this would be enough for intelligent person to understand this is not me. This is some external contraption, some external cloth on me that is undergoing changes, and tomorrow it will stop to exist, but I will still exist. I am a different, and I had so many of these external clothes before, so many bodies we had in the past, and who knows what we were in the past, man, women, animal, human, demigod, so many. There was this Dr. Hans Stevenson who was doing the research, reincarnation research, and he documented thousands and thousands of cases of reincarnation where people remember their previous lives, and it's just amazing to to read some of these stories, how the soul goes to different experiences, and how the same problems repeat. If we don't overcome certain arts, we keep dragging them from one life to another life, and how we are connected with different people through our karma, and if we have unresolved karmas with them, again in this life we become connected to them. Just the roles might be opposite. Somebody who was your friend becomes your enemy, and this and that. So many things are there. But somehow the modern civilization and modern education, they have no idea about the soul and karma and reincarnation. It's complete ignorance, which is shame on so-called education that we are supposed to imbibe. And yet this gold analogy is given, the one who knows how to dig the gold, how to extract the gold from the gold ore. Then he's expert. Similarly, the one who knows how to extract the soul from entanglement in the body is expert. In some other context, gold is also mentioned, like how the bell metal, when mixed with mercury in proper proportions, can produce gold. And Prabhupada, in one purpose, I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he mentions that modern day alchemists and adventurers, they can try this recipe and try to figure out how to produce gold. Actually, it's mentioned by Sanatana Goswami in Hari Bhakti Vilas in regard to initiation, how one who undergoes initiation, he is transformed like bell metal when mixed with mercury is transformed into gold. So in a similar way, the conditioned soul to the process of initiation is transformed into a devotee of the Lord. Yeah, this is some thoughts that I had on this. If anybody has anything to comment or ask, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll continue reading. Dhanashri Mataji, could you please kindly read?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Asto prakrityam bhaktas trayeva itad gunaha vikaran sudaschayan raib pumam ekab sanar vaya. Translation: the Lord's 8 separated material energies, the 3 modes of material nature, and the 16 transformation of the 16 transformations, the 11 senses, and the 5 gross material elements like earth and water. Within all these, the one spiritual soul exists as the observer. Therefore, all the great acharyas have concluded that the individual soul is conditioned by this material element. As explained in the previous verse, Kshetresu Deheshu Tatatma Yogair Adhyatma Vid Brahma Gatir Labita. A spiritual advanced person can understand how the spiritual particle exists within the body, and thus, by cultivating spiritual knowledge, he can attain perfection in spiritual life. The intelligent person who is expert in finding the self within the body must understand the 8 external energies, which are listed in Bhagavata 7.4. Bhumir apohalo vayud kamano buddhir evacha aikara ityame bima praktir astada da. Earth, water, fire, air, either ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, they 8 comprise my separated material energies. Bhumi, earth, include all the objects of sense perception. Rupa, form. Rasa, taste. Gandha, smell. Sabha, sound. And sparsha, touch. Within the earth are the fragrance of roses, the taste of sweet fruit, and whatever else we want. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.10.4, Sarvakama Dugamahi, the earth Mahi, contains all our requirements. Thus, the objects of sense perception are all present in Bhumi, or the earth. The gross material elements and subtle material elements, mind, intelligence, and ahankara, false ego, constitute the total material energy. Within the total material energy are the 3 material modes or qualities. These qualities, Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, belong not to the soul, but to material energy. It is because of the interaction of these 3 material modes of nature that the 5 knowledge gathering senses, the 5 working senses, and their controller, the mind, are manifested. Then, according to those modes, the living entity gets the opportunity to perform different types of karma with different types of knowledge, thinking, feeling, and willing. Thus, the bodily machine begins to work. This has all been properly analyzed Sankhya Yoga by the great acharyas, especially by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, in his incarnation as Devahuti Putra Kapila, this is indicated here by the word acharya, acharyayi. We need not follow anyone who is not an authorized acharya. Acharyavan Purusho Veda, one can understand the truth fully when he has taken shelter of an expert acharya. The living entity is individual, but the body is a composition of many material elements. This is proved by the fact that as soon as the living entity quits his combination of material elements, it becomes a mere conglomeration of matter. The matter is qualitatively one, and the spiritual soul is qualitatively one with the Supreme. The Supreme is one, and the individual soul is one, but the individual soul is understood to be the master of the individual combination of material energy, whereas the Supreme Lord is the controller of the total material energy. The living entity is a master of the particular body, and according to his activities, is subjected to different types of pains and pleasures. However, although the Supreme Person, the Paramatma, is also one, he is present as an individual in all the different bodies. The material energy is, in fact, divided into 24 elements. The individual soul, the owner of the individual body, is a 25th subject. And above everything is Lord Vishnu as Paramatma, the Supreme Controller, who is a 26th subject. When one understands all of these 26 subjects, he becomes Adhyatmavit, an expert in understanding the distinction between matter and spirit, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 13.3, Kshetravor Gyanam, understanding of the kshetra, the constitution of the body, and of the individual soul, and the super soul constitute real jnana, or knowledge. Unless one ultimately understands that the Supreme Lord is eternally related with the individual soul, one's knowledge is imperfect. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavan ma prapyadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudulabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Everything material and spiritual consists of various energies of Vasudeva, to whom the individual soul, the spiritual part of the Supreme Lord, is subordinate. Upon understanding this perfect knowledge, one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Sa Mahatma Sudolabha. Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the knower of Adhyatma, was mentioned. What is the Adhyatma? 1.5 verses explain this. The 8 are Prakti, Mahatattva, Ahankara, and the 5 Tatmatras. The 3 are its transformation of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. The 16 are the 11 senses and the 5 gross elements. These are described by a person like Kapila. The Atma is the one entity. The Atma exists there by the relationship Samavayat, or it can mean being constantly present there. It stands for Atati, to go.
Okay, so again, more Atma Tattva, in this case, Sankhya of Kapila, son of Devahuti, who is the Lord himself. So basically, Sankhya goes on analyzing and of all material elements in order to be able at the end to point to the spirit, to the spirit soul, that the soul is different from matter. This is the purpose of Sankhya, but somehow through the history that purpose was lost, and Sankhya became, just analyzing of material elements, became a materialistic science like any other of the sciences that are counting the material elements and their transformations, and like biology, physics, chemistry, all these sciences. Now we want Sankhya of Lord Kapila, which is leading towards devotional service. Once we understand that we are not this body and elements that constitute this body, we want to engage in the service of the Lord, because this is our eternal position. Okay, so this was quite philosophical. Let's read one more. Gunaraj Prabhu, can you please read if you're there? Gunaraj Prabhu. Okay, looks like he doesn't hear. So I will read in that case. Yes, oh, you're there. Okay, please.
Yeah.
Please.
7.723 देगस्तु सर्व संगातो जगत्तस्तुर इति द्विधा अत्रैव मृग्य पुरुषो नेति नेतीति अतत्यजन्. Translation. There are two kinds of bodies for every individual soul. A gross body made of 5 gross elements and a subtle body made of 3 subtle elements. Within these bodies, however, is the spirit soul. One must find the soul by analysis, saying, this is not it, this is not it. Thus, one must separate spirit from matter. Purport. As previously stated, Swarnam yata gravashu hemakara kshetreshu yogaistad abhignya apnuyat. An expert in the study of the soil can find out where gold is and then dig there. He can then analyze the stone and test the gold with nitric acid. Similarly, one must analyze the whole body to find within the body the spirit soul. In studying one's own body, one must ask himself whether his head is his soul, his fingers are his soul, his hand is his soul, and so on. In this way, one must gradually reject all the material elements and the combinations of material elements in the body. Then, if one is expert and follows the Acharya, he can understand that he is the spiritual soul living within the body. The greatest Acharya, Krishna, begins his teachings in Bhagavad Gita by saying, Degino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata degandra praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Bhagavad Gita 2.13. The spirit soul possesses the body and is within the body. This is the real analysis. The soul never mixes with the bodily elements. Although the soul is within the body, it is separate and always pure. One must analyze and understand his self. This is self-realization. Neti Neti is the analytical process of rejecting matter. By expertly conducting such an analysis, one can understand where the soul is. No one is not one who is not expert, however, cannot distinguish gold from earth, nor the soul from the body. Vishwanath Chakrathakura comments, the combination of all of these produces the moving and non-moving bodies like men and trees. In the body, the Paramatma should be sought out. The method is described. One should reject what is different from the Paramatma. By rejecting everything else, one should seek out Paramatma.
So here Prabhupada, I think third time in this few shlokas that we read, he quotes this Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jratata dehantara prapya dhirastatra namohyate. It's such an important verse. That self-realized soul, dhira, is one who is not bewildered by these bodily changes, who knows that he's different from the body. Dhira means sober, means that he's not intoxicated with the sense enjoyment and gratification. It means that he has no material desires, that he doesn't want to enjoy this world. As long as we have material desires, as long as we hope that we'll be happy in this world by making certain arrangements, we cannot become Dhira. And if you're not Dhira, we cannot understand that we are the soul. And then we cannot really engage in true sense in devotional service. At the moment, even with the material desires and conditionings, we are engaging in devotional service, but we can say that we are aspiring devotees, that we are trying to become real devotees. But real devotees, real devotion or real bhakti starts at the Brahma Buddha platform. Again, Krishna, that says in Bhagavad Gita, how does it go? Nasochiti nakangshati samasabhishu bhuteshu yad bhaktim labate param. The one who is, who doesn't lament, who is on a transcendental platform, on a Brahma Buddha platform, means that he knows clearly that he's not the body, but he's the soul. Then from that platform, he spontaneously engages in serving the Lord. On the bodily platform, we have so much, condition and illusion, and it's very difficult to engage ourselves in the service because I have to know first who am I, what I'm doing in order to be able to do something. But once we realize that we are not the body but we are the soul, it will be much easier to practice devotional service. It will be natural because devotional service is natural activity of the soul. It's not artificial imposition of the soul. But we need to know, to realize that we are the soul, and then it will be easier. Okay, so how much time we have? Not so much. Okay, I'll read the rest. 24. Anvaya vyatirekena vivekeno shatatmana swargasthana samamnayar vimshadbir asatvarai. Translation: sober and expert persons should search for the spirit soul with minds purified through analytical study in terms of the soul's connection with the distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. So let's try to sing this, to understand this. Mind purified through Sankhya, through analytical study, in terms of the soul's connection with and distinction from all things that undergo creation, maintenance, and destruction. Okay, purport. A sober person can study himself and distinguish the soul from the body by analytical study. For example, when one considers his body, his head, his hands, and so on, one can certainly understand the difference between the spirit soul and the body. No one says, I had. Everyone says, my head. Thus, there are two entities, the head and I. They are not identical, although they appear to be one conglomeration. So one may argue, when we analyze the body, we find a head hands, legs, a belly, blood, bones, urine, stool, and so on. But after everything is considered, where is the existence of the soul? The sober man, however, avails himself of this Vedic instruction. Yattova imani bhutani jayante, yena jhatani jivanti, yat paryant yabhisamvi shanti, tat vijigyasasva, tat brahmeti. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad. Thus he can understand that the head, hands, legs, and indeed the entire body have grown on the basis of the soul. If the soul is within, the body, head, hands, and legs grow, but otherwise they do not. A dead child does not grow up, for the soul is not present. If by careful analysis of the body one still cannot find the existence of the soul, this is due to his ignorance. How can a gross man fully engaged in materialistic activities understand the soul, which is a small particle of spirit, 1/10,000 the size of the tip of a hair? Such a person foolishly thinks that the material body has grown from a combination of chemicals, although he cannot find them. The Vedas inform us, however, that chemical combinations do not constitute the living force. The living force is the Atma and Paramatma, and the body grows on the basis of that living force. The fruit of a tree grows and undergoes 6 kinds of change because of the presence of the tree. If there were no tree, there could be no question of the growth and maturity of fruit. Therefore, beyond the existence of the body are the Paramatma and Atma within the body. This is the first understanding of spiritual knowledge explained in Bhagavad Gita. Again, we have Dehenusmin Yata Dehe. The body exists because of the presence of the Supreme Lord and the Jiva, which is part of the Lord. This is further explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Matatamidam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani na chahanteshvavastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. The Supreme Soul exists everywhere. The Vedas enjoin sarvam kal idam brahma. Everything is Brahman, or an expansion of Brahman's energies. Sutramani Ganaiva, everything rests on the Lord like pearls strung together on a thread. The thread is the principal Brahman. He is the supreme cause, the supreme Lord upon whom everything rests. Mada Paratharam Nanyat. Thus we must study the Atma and Paramatma, the individual soul and the super soul, upon whom the entire material cosmic manifestation rests. This is explained by the Vedic statement, Yattova imani bhutani jhante, yena jhatani jivanti. So Vishwanath Thakur, the body is not that. Rejecting the body, nothing will remain. Paramatma is connected, anvaya, to the body, but the body is separate, yati rekena, from Paramatma. This can be realized through one's connection with material elements like intelligence, but Paramatma situated in the body is separate from intelligence also. This is the discrimination using the pure mind. The Paramatma should be sought by persons with steadiness who consider the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction. Shruti says, Yatova imani bhutani jante, from the Lord arise all these beings. Taittiriya Upanishad. Yes, so we can see how Prabhupada here repeats these Upanishadic statements in purport from Vishwanath Thakur. So I'm not this, I'm not that. Neti neti. This is sometimes used as the procedure to come to the proper conclusion. It's used in Vedanta, but it's also used by Buddhists, and they also use this neti neti. And what is their conclusion? Their conclusion: there is no soul, there is nothing. I'm nirvana, nihilism, nothing exists. But they're also proving that we are not a body. They make that point, just that they don't go very far with that, what we are, after proving through this sort of Sankhya and neti, that we are not the body. So as Prabhupada says, any sober person, any little intelligent person, to this sort of analysis, if not by some other means, he will conclude that I'm not this body, I cannot be this body. It's just completely illogical. It doesn't make any sense. But still, so many so-called modern intellectuals and scientists, they think that the body, that we are just combination of chemicals. And once, the chemicals go back to earth, you don't exist anymore. And this is sort of very foolish logic that only encourages irresponsible lives of sense gratification and enjoyment. Because if that's the case, that this is the only life we have, that we are just a bunch of chemicals put together, then I can spend this life any way I want. I don't have to be accountable for my actions, because there's no punishment in the next life. There's no karma, so I can just enjoy and do all sorts of sinful activities. But of course, this sort of logic doesn't work. And at the end of life, those who are thinking like this, they'll be very unpleasantly surprised that actually, although their body is dead, they still exist. But most likely they'll be dragged by the Yamadutas, and they will cry, but it will be in vain. And it's complete ignorance to think that there is no life after that. It's nowadays, anybody who claims that is little spiritual, all these new age people, all sorts of yogis and spiritualists, they all believe in karma. And many of them, they're becoming also vegetarians. And it's very difficult, to understand that we are not the body, that we are the soul. If one is an animal killer and he eats animals, because he doesn't also recognize the animals have the soul. So what is the problem? Let's just kill this bunch of chemicals and eat it. And I'm also a bunch of chemicals, but in using that logic, cannibalism would be also allowed, but somehow it's not yet allowed. But who knows what we can expect in a modern civilization? Maybe after some years it will be normalized. They're actually already normalizing some practices like drinking blood, which is completely ghostly rakshasa sort of thing. But it was on a head on the first page of, I don't know, it was Time magazine or some big magazine there, that some people, they for their health they need to drink blood. That was the message that was given in that article. Okay, so what is the time? Maybe just one more shloka we have time, and then we'll finish. If you have anything on what we read today, it's not very engaging chapter. It's just basic Atma Tattva philosophy here. So no wonder that nobody has anything. All right, one more. Buddha Jagaranam Swapna. Okay, here we have a dream, Swapna. Sushuptir iti vrittaya ta yena iva nubuyante so dyaksha purusha paraha. Translation: intelligence can be perceived in three states of activity: wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep. The person who perceives these three is to be considered the original master, the ruler, the supreme personality of Godhead. So we have three states of existence. Sometimes we are awake, sometimes we are dreaming, and that means alpha state, as they call it. We are sort of half conscious, we are conscious of our dreams. And then in the deep sleep, we are completely unconscious and not aware of anything. But the one who is present at that time is the Lord, who is within our heart, and he witnesses everything, and he's still conscious, even when we are not conscious. So purport. Without intelligence, one cannot understand the direct activities of the senses, nor can he understand dreaming or the cessation of all gross and subtle activities. The seer and controller is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Soul, by whose direction the individual soul can understand when he is awake, when he is sleeping, and when he is completely in trance. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto mattha smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. The living entities are completely absorbed in the three states of wakefulness, dreaming, and deep sleep through their intelligence. Actually, even when we are awake, it's considered that we are sleeping, because spiritually we are not awake. So the bodily existence is also compared to a dream. So from that perspective, even if we are awake and walking around, from the soul's perspective, we are sleeping. We are not awoke for the existence of the soul, unless we are self-realized. So this intelligence is supplied by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who accompanies the individual soul as a friend. Srila Madhvacharya says that the living entity is sometimes described as Sattva Buddhi, and his intelligence acts directly to perceive pains and pleasures above activities. There's a dreaming state in which understanding comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Madhasmritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, is the Supreme Controller, and under his direction, the living entities are sub-controllers. One must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead with one's intelligence. So yeah, this dreaming state has been a lot explored, and there are even the books who were supposed to interpret your dreams. And even in in the Vedic Shastras, there are some sort of Shastras who give interpretation of certain dreams, Shakuna Shastra, but basically what we are dreaming is a mixture of different sorts of sanskaras that we experience during the day or that we experience in the past. And sometimes, sanskaras even from previous lifetimes may emerge in a dream. But sometimes, for a devotee, the Lord can appear in a dream if he wishes, or the super soul can give us some guidance to the dream state. And there are examples of this we find. For example, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, when he was about to go to Vrindavan, he had Lord Nityananda appear in his dream, and Prabhupada, he has his spiritual master 3 times appear in his dream, asking him to take sannyas. So this is the easiest place where the Lord, if he wants to appear to devotee, can appear. But we should understand that such dreams, such spiritual dreams, they are not ordinary dreams, and they're not mixture of samskaras. This is directly Lord entering our dreaming state in order to communicate with us, with the soul. And Vishnu Chakri Thakur says this method of discernment is described in 2 verses. 3 states of intelligence possessed by the jiva are described. Paramatma Purusha Para perceives these 3 states. There's something also called lucid dreaming. The people who are practicing this lucid dreaming, what does lucid dream mean? means that in a dream, you become aware that you are dreaming. So you're still dreaming, you're still sleeping, you're lying in a bed, your eyes are closed. But in that dream, you became conscious. Oh, I'm just dreaming. And that's called lucid dream. And then people practice to learn how to wake in a dream, how to dream lucidly, because then they can do many things. They can do whatever they want. For example, in a dream, you can fly. In normal reality, you cannot. But in a dream, you can, just fly around the earth and do all sort of unimaginable things. That's why people practice this lucid dreaming in order to be able to enjoy in the dream, which is not actually the purpose of dream state, lucid dreaming. But yeah, once we are awake from a bodily dream, then can be also called a real lucid dream. We become awakened from the dream that we are this body, and this is possible on a Brahma Bhuta platform. One who reaches that platform is truly awakened person. All right, I think we'll stop here. Does anybody have any sort of final comments or questions? Okay, I'll stop sharing the screen here and hope to see you all on next Wednesday. I think it's just a normal day. So hopefully again at 6 o'clock at the regular time. Otherwise, I will let you know before on that Bhagavad Dharma group. So thank you all very much for being here. Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpataruvascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnava.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna, Prabhu.
you. Thank
Thank you,
you, Hare
Baba. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have a question.
Oh, yes, Mataji. Okay, we can have one last
Prabhu,
question.
here, in Bhagavatam, we always read, no, Devaduti Putra Kapila. So, this Kapila is the same Kapila Muni which we have in Gangasagar, where, Bhagirath took the Ganga to.
Yes, this is the same Kapila Muni. And yeah, the ancestor of Bhagirath, they say they were burned, but it was not burned by the glance of Kapila Muni. They were burned by their own aggression towards the Kapila Muni. But there is another Kapila Muni also who was an atheist and who propounded the atheistic Kapila philosophy. So there are these two Kapilas, but the one in the Ganga Sagar, that's the real one, the Bhagavatam Kapila Muni, who is incarnation of the Lord. Is
Okay,
this
okay,
okay,
okay.
Mataji?
Okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that is what I had the question. So, who is the second Kapila which you are telling?
Second Kapila, he is the propounder of atheistic Sankhya philosophy, like just material science. I didn't very much study him, but you can probably find him just in a Google. He is just propounder of that atheistic Sankhya philosophy
Okay,
that
okay,
doesn't. It's just I don't know exactly how many hundred years ago he lived or thousands, but such person existed, and his name was also Kapila, but it's
okay,
not
okay.
the Bhagavatam. Thank
So
you,
the
thank you.
Bhagavatam Kapila is the Kapila at Gangasagar, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, okay. That was
Thank
my
you.
question. Okay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.